It's really crazy how quickly I was able to take my business and my income. I'm not used to filming with like someone else in the room. You watch my videos?
You showed me them. No, otherwise, to be honest. But...
Oh, that's fine then. Okay. It's really crazy how quickly I was able to take my business and my income to the next level by doing literally the most simple, easy, very normal thing that we should all be doing, but most of us do not: setting boundaries with clients. What exactly does that mean? What does that look like for me? And how on earth does it have anything to do with me making more money? Let's talk about it. What's up, designers? My name is Kelsey. I'm an NCIDQ certified interior designer and the owner of KLSY, a Manhattan-based design studio specializing in commercial spaces. My mission is to help other designers like you excel in their career while promoting transparency about the industry and profession. I've been wanting to make this video for two reasons. First, to help other designers out there who might be struggling with difficult clients, or those who are working more than 40 hours a week, killing themselves and still breaking even every month, or even losing money every month. Yes, I have been there. I was literally there a few months ago. And secondly, because this has been very transformative for me in not only the way that I conduct business and my relationships with my clients, but it's also had a big impact on my personal relationships and my overall stress and happiness. But first, because this is my YouTube channel and because I can only speak from my own lived experiences, I'm gonna talk a little bit about me. I consider myself to be stuck in the middle of two very different personality types. I'm a very outspoken person. I say what's on my mind, often to my own detriment. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself or speak up when I don't agree with something. I'm confident in who I am as a person. But on the flip side, I am an incredible people pleaser. Maybe this comes from general society, and being a woman, we're naturally taught to put other people first and make others happy, serve other people. It definitely stems from my perfectionist tendencies. Every project I work on, every client I work with, I want to do my absolute best. I want to make them happy. I want to make sure the final result is as perfect as possible, which is a great quality to have. And because of that, I get a lot of repeat clients and client referrals. So my work ethic and my desire to create something that my clients are happy with has definitely been a major factor in my success. However, I didn't always know how to balance that with boundaries. So what exactly do client boundaries look like? What does this mean? When you create a boundary, you're defining the limits that make you uncomfortable, stating what you will and will not do, and creating parameters around how the project will run and how you will communicate with your clients. This can be stated in your design services contract or verbally just in communication with your client, like telling them that email is the best way to contact you rather than texting, or that you don't work on weekends. But besides just setting communication boundaries, boundaries also include the scope of work you've agreed to, the hours you've agreed to work, and the fee that you set. In your contract, you should clearly state what the exact scope of work is, what rooms you're working on, what the items are that you're sourcing, what your roles and responsibilities are, the hours that you will put into this project, both from a design side and communication, like Zoom calls, site visits, going to showrooms, all that stuff. As soon as you do something outside of that scope and time, you are wavering on your boundaries. Something I noticed that was happening frequently is that I was wavering on my design systems and processes. I have a certain way that I like to run projects, which is defined in phases. I like to select every piece of furniture before ordering because it makes purchasing run smoothly, and I have these systems and processes in place so that projects can run more efficiently, and then so I don't myself forget anything and I start to get chaotic, and then the whole project gets chaotic, because I do be chaotic sometimes. What I've noticed is that in most of my projects, I've been wavering on my processes. I've been purchasing things whenever the client asks me to, instead of waiting for all the selections to be made, which is what I said that I was gonna do. I've done phases out of order, I've skipped phases. I've basically just been doing whatever the client asked me to do. And the result was constant stress and anxiety and chaos and things going wrong, things slipping through the cracks, me being resentful of the client, and then ultimately it either not ending on a good note or me just absolutely not giving a at the end. I've learned that it's just not worth it to work like that and bend over backwards for whatever they ask. You know, I'm not their assistant, I'm their designer. There was a breaking point for me earlier this year where I was barely breaking even financially, and every project was stressing me out, and I just lost it. And what I realized is that I had completely lost control over my projects. I needed to take back control in order to turn this ship around and prevent me from just giving up on this business entirely, or literally running out of money. I want to now talk about some of the ways that I set client boundaries and stick to them so that I can maintain control of my projects, my processes, and my sanity. The first is super easy and something everyone can do, and that is not answering texts, calls, and emails outside of work hours. Being a new business owner over the last 2 years, I felt like I hadn't earned this privilege yet. I was supposed to be working 24/7. I wanted to show my clients that I was working really hard all the time. I wanted, again, to please them as much as possible. But what it did was not allow me to ever relax. I already, as a person, have a really, really hard time relaxing and turning my brain off. So to be answering texts and emails all day, every day, just perpetuated that. I literally could not stop thinking about work, and therefore it put me in this constant state of anxiety that I should be working when I wasn't working. It actually wasn't until the point where my boyfriend started bringing it up that I was always on my phone when we were hanging out and answering client texts while we were away on weekends or at night that I realized it was also affecting my personal relationships. I was afraid that if I stopped answering my clients that they would get mad at me or they would fire me, and it turns out they didn't, because it's normal to not work after hours and on the weekends. So how could they get mad at me and fire me? So now I have a strict rule with myself that I do not answer emails outside of Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if I get a text, I either won't answer it at all if it's late or on a weekend, or I'll acknowledge their thought and respond saying that we can talk about it on Monday. I'm still being respectful of the person, but setting that clear boundary that I don't work on weekends. To add a layer to communication boundaries, something I'm still trying to work on is not answering emails constantly throughout the workday. Many days, I will keep my email tab open on my computer and I'll monitor it to make sure I'm not missing any important emails. But all that does is stunt my productivity. At one point, one of my clients made a comment that I was the fastest email responder she ever worked with, and that made me realize that I needed to chill the f out with answering emails. If you are answering an email within a few hours or within the same day, I'm here to tell you that that is a normal response time. So don't stress out, you don't have to answer the email as soon as you get it. So in talking about keeping to your design systems and processes, in addition to simply giving in and doing things the way the client wanted to do it, I realized that I wasn't giving my clients any guidance on how the design process is going to work. Most of these people have never worked with a designer before, so how are they supposed to know what any of this looks like? So at the beginning of a new project, what I started doing was outlining everything in more detail. The phases of the project, tentative meeting timelines, what we were going to review in those meetings, when purchasing was going to start, and what I needed from them. What are their roles and responsibilities? This set the stage for a more successful project, and it made the client feel like they were more aware and involved in the project process rather than sitting around wondering when I was going to send them all the furniture options. So onboarding is a really good way to keep those design process boundaries. Now, what about when you've designed something and the client wants to change everything or has ideas that are not so great? You can't just be like, great idea, to make them happy, because it's not always a great idea. Most times, it's a really shitty idea. Again, in the past, people pleaser me would just say yes to everything in order to give them what they want. But after doing that so many times and ultimately regretting it when I see the finished product and I'm not happy with it, I had to have the mindset shift and remind myself that I'm the professional. My clients hired me to give them my professional opinion and bring my experience to the project. If they knew how to do it and had all the answers, they wouldn't need to hire me. That mindset shift gave me more confidence to say no or push back on a client idea. Just be careful to do it with kindness and in a way that validates their idea. You don't want to tell your client that it's a shitty idea. You'd maybe want to say something like, wow, I love that idea, but I don't think that that would fit into this particular space because of the layout, and I really love the concept and color scheme we agreed upon. Or you could just blame it on a code restriction. I didn't tell you to do that, I don't do that. Something that happens very often in this job is clients asking for things outside of scope or adding scope. Old me would say, yes, of course, and then just go do it. Not charge them any more money and spend way more time on the project than I should have. Sometimes clients are trying to get away with more and not be charged for it, which is not a great client. You probably shouldn't work with them anymore. But sometimes they don't even realize they're asking for something outside of scope, so it's okay for you to remind them or tell them that. Let's say your scope is to select furniture, but your client one day asks if you can help advise them on a paint color for that room. My response would be something like, absolutely, I can help with that. This falls outside of our scope, but I'd be happy to add on a few additional hours to cover the time needed to select. I can send you a written quote for that later today. How does that sound? A response like that is respectful of the client and tells them that you can and will help them with this task. But it keeps your boundaries in place by stating that the task is outside of your scope and it would require additional payment. But what happens when your clients push back on your boundaries? If you've held your ground and made it clear what your boundaries, systems, rates, and processes are, and the client still keeps pushing you, that is not the time to give in. Yes, there are instances where things inevitably go wrong in a project, and you may need to work a few extra hours or eat a cost to make it right. Unfortunately, those things just happen from time to time. This is business, but they shouldn't be the norm. If you've made whatever the client is pushing back on very clear to them, then you may need to lose this client. And that's okay, because there are lots of other people out there who respect your time, your expertise, your fee, and your work enough to not push you on those boundaries and take every single little thing into question. However, you'll find that when you start putting these boundaries in place, clients typically don't push back. You may actually be surprised that they start respecting you more. Maybe they trust you more because they see that you are in control, you're taking over the project, and you have organized systems and restrictions in place in order to make sure that things run smoothly. I've had clients that push back a bit after I set a boundary, but after I stand my ground and explain very clearly why that boundary is in place, they immediately understand and they back off, and everything is great. Don't be afraid of your clients. They will not bite you. I do though have one client that I'm a little bit afraid of. Okay, Kelsey, you told us a lot about your silly little boundaries and project systems, but what the heck does any of that have to do with making more money? If you are constantly working more hours than you billed your client for, adding on more scope that they didn't hire you for, and not charging them for any of this extra time and work, you are losing a lot of money. I have been there. Oh my God, I was there for way too long. If you're like me, you keep telling yourself, it's okay, I'll just do this one little thing for them. You want to make them happy. You want the project to look perfect. It's going to look great in your portfolio. No, cut it out. You need to charge clients for your time and work. You are not there to design for funsies. You were hired by this person as an expert to perform a service, and for that, you need to be compensated. And clients are willing to pay for it because they clearly believe that having you here adds value to their life or business. They are okay with giving you more money because that means they're getting more value or more furniture or a nicer design. Another reason your lack of boundaries is costing you money: if all your time is taken up by a few projects that are sucking up your time and energy and resources, you don't have any room to take on new clients and new projects that will pay you more. There's only so much time in a day. It will become nearly impossible for you to both get new business and close out your old projects that are sucking up your time. If you aren't charging clients for additional time and work, these projects can just go on and on for months. And then what? You're suddenly working 40 hours a week doing free work? It happens, but don't let it happen to you. And don't even get me started on purchasing. All the time, I have clients ask me if I can pass on my trade discount to them so that they can save money. Absolutely not. Your trade discounts are your way of being compensated for the time and energy involved in the purchasing process. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have a video on the purchasing process where I talk a little bit about this, so be sure to check that one out after this. You should not be giving your clients any of your trade discount, even a small percentage. If they can't afford the product, they can't afford the product, and you either need to source something less expensive or they can't afford to hire you at all. I have lost thousands of dollars from giving away my trade discounts or giving away a little bit of it, the entire thing. Oh my God, I've done it all. I have so many regrets. Lastly, if you don't stick with and are confident with your fees, naturally you are going to charge less money. If you're someone who wavers every single time a client pushes back, you will not be the kind of person to send a large proposal fee because you're afraid of getting pushback. Pushback can be a good thing though. It tells you that you're pricing yourself well. You should get pushback from time to time because if you're not, you're priced way too cheap and these people are jumping on it because they know they're getting a good deal. All of these boundaries and mindset shifts have completely transformed my business, and I believe that it is the single reason why I've started having more consistent profitable months. I've now had 4 consecutive 5-figure gross income months, which I have never had in my life. It is so crazy to even think that. Seriously, in the beginning of this year, I was really struggling to get by. I was working myself to death like a dog, like working over 40 hours every single week and feeling like I was either breaking even, losing money, or had just enough to pay my bills. And I kept thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? What is it that I'm doing wrong? And part of that was raising my rates, but a lot of it was just putting these boundaries in place and building my confidence around my value and the work that I'm doing, the time that I'm putting in, and not being afraid to ask people for money. Overall, I feel less stressed, I'm more confident in my services and my rates and my abilities. I have more professional and healthy relationships with my clients, and I have more faith and trust in myself. And my boyfriend's not getting mad at me any longer that I'm texting clients on the weekend. So I really hope that if you're struggling with any of these situations, or if you're having a hard time setting boundaries with clients, this is your sign to make that change. Have confidence in your abilities, start standing your ground. And along the way, if you're looking for more educational interior design content, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and check out some more of my interior design business videos here. And let me know down in the description box what topics you'd like me to cover in the future. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.